people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Set to make her next ring appearance on the undercard of Josh Warrington versus Lee Wood 2, TBA Ayton returns to action February 21st. Against an opponent that is yet to be announced, though you gotta figure that at only 4-0, they're not gonna match her too tough. At this point, it's all really developmental fights and learning fights, though it's good that they're getting her back out there so soon after her previous bout. Having debuted as a professional in June of this year and squeezed in 4 fights in between now and then, I expect TBA Ayton to do something similar next year. 4 fights, maybe 5. Because all of TBA Ayton's bouts so far have ended so abruptly, that leaves the door open for you to get her out there more often. As is customary for a fighter that is just starting out, and it's not just about building up TBA Ayton's experience level or skill set, it's also about building up her brand. The more she's out there pummeling girls, the more the audience gets to know her. The ones who like her and the ones who don't. The fans and the critics alike. You want to build up a demand, a brand, a desire from the audience to see TBA Ayton against the best and brightest at 118 pounds where she campaigns, and that just so happens to be a very deep weight class. Even though I think it should be a while before Tia is actually fighting in eliminators to challenge for an alphabet title, there are enough girls there to keep her busy, to keep her active, and keep her in the public eye, the public consciousness. What is Matchroom's stake in the future of women's boxing, now that Katie Taylor's career is winding down and their own stable of Valkyries has thinned out a bit? I mean, they still have Katie Taylor, they still have Sandy Ryan and Shannon Ryan, they still have Maisie Rose, they still have Sky Nicholson, they recently signed Molly McCann, and of course, they have young Tia, who has all the ingredients to perhaps become the face of women's boxing. Very young, with her entire career ahead of her. She's a very aggressive fighter with an aggressive style, lots of power, making her fights easy for the casual observer to digest and thus more marketable. And so I expect to see Tia fight 4, maybe even 5 times in the coming calendar year, and it all starts in February when she returns to action on the undercard of Lee Wood versus Josh Warrington 2. Men's Super Bantamweight news ahead of this weekend's Night of the Samurai card. Naoya Inoue is wary of bigger, younger David Picasso, but plans to overwhelm him. It's seemingly rinse and repeat for knockout artist Naoya Inoue every time he stepped foot in the ring, but over his last 5 fights, of all those wins, there's been a mixed bag of results, and for the undisputed Super Bantamweight champion, a perennial pound-for-pound king, Inoue has been dropped twice, shockingly, in the early rounds against Luis Neri and Ramon Cardenas, with over-the-top countershots, only to come back and stop them. Inoue has also lost more rounds on the cards than in years past, and he heard the final bell for just the 4th time in his 13-year career, last time out in September against Mutajan Akhmadaliev. On Saturday, Inoue will defend his Super Bantamweight crown against David Picasso in Saudi while headlining the Ring 4 Night of the Samurai. Done if you're in the United States. The card is set to kick off at 4 in the morning if you're on the East Coast. Inoue has promised a return to his relentless ways. I'm determined to show a truly top-class fight, Inoue said on DAZN's On the Ground series. This time, I'll be overwhelming, truly demonstrating my strength. In my last fight, I devised a strategy to secure a victory by decision as part of the plan. This time, it's really about showcasing the difference in power. Just want to show my strength. It's about carefully selecting within myself how I'll box against Picasso. I believe I'll manage to do that. One thing is, there's a height difference of about 3 inches. Of course, the youthfulness of him being 25, vigor too. Picasso's motivation isn't the same as when he fights other fighters. He comes out to take everything. So compared to past fighters, he comes at you about 1.5 times or even double the strength. That's what I'm most weary of. Picasso, 32-0 with 1 draw and 17 knockouts, is still green and a largely unproven Mexican contender competing in his first world title fight. He's coming off a lackluster majority decision win against Kiyonosuke Kamita in July. The best victory of Picasso's career came last year against Khamzat Hovhannisyan, a former Inoue sparring partner and world title challenger. The names of Inoue and Picasso have actually been attached for many months. Even before the Saudis put this card together, there was an effort to put David in the ring with Inoue, and I remember reading that David had initially turned the fight down. What may have made him come around is that this time, it's the Saudis financing the fight, so there may be more in it for him. More money, that is. But they didn't initially want it. And why would they? The bookies have Inoue a 45-1 favorite going in. Inoue's father and trainer, Shingo, shared how he envisions his son executing the game plan to get past Picasso in order to secure the spring showdown against Junto Nakatani. It's all about concentration, said Shingo. When Naoya is fully focused, he can make split-second decisions on the spot more quickly. You just can't afford to let your guard down at all. I feel that more with him now than in the past, where he is able to maintain that concentration tactically. I want Naoya to maintain his distance. If he stops moving and just pushes forward aggressively, Picasso is such a combative fighter. I don't want to step onto his turf, where he'll just smash it right back at him. There is a legitimate argument that Naoya Inoue has reached critical mass, climbing higher than any Japanese fighter before him, to the point where every fight that he has now is make or break. Every fight has a lot on the line just because he's the one fighting. Hit and move away, landing punches while dodging his. Repeat that. Wear him down bit by bit and inflict damage. I imagine us gradually breaking Picasso down bit by bit while maintaining solid fundamentals. But if Naoya Inoue starts looking for the knockout from the very beginning, he tends to tense up and can't fight naturally as he normally would. So he needs to stay cool, taking it one punch at a time. That's how we'll break him down. There is an air of caution to Inoue and his strategy, more so now than in previous years, likely because in recent memory, he's been dropped 2 times. Is he declining? Is he on the back 9? I wouldn't go that far. I believe that in the Luis Neri fight, like the Ramon Cardenas fight, it was Inoue's intention to make a statement and go home early. With Luis Neri, given what he did to Shinsuke Yamanaka, one of Japan's other prominent fighters, years ago, Inoue was intended to be the avenging angel in that fight, exacting vengeance on Luis for what he did to Shinsuke, so the intention was to make a statement. And he tried to make that statement early and got caught for it. He recovered. Though essentially, he was a little bit too aggressive at the start, and I believe it was the same with Ramon Cardenas for different reasons. With Ramon Cardenas, Ramon was a massive underdog. Not the kind of opponent that on paper you need to be all that mindful of. So once again, I think that Inoue was trying to make a statement and trying to make it early, but he once again got caught, and by the same punch. Think it was a left hook over the top? Quantifying both knockdowns to try and understand why they happened, I don't think it's because Inoue is on the back 9. I think it's because he was overzealous. So now they're taking a more measured approach. The fighter that he's about to fight, David Alan Picasso, he's one of these tall guys. He's one of these fighters that's tall for his weight. Though not hiding behind it and staying behind a jab, David Alan Picasso's sweet spot is mid-range to inside. Very aggressive guy. More prone to stepping into his punches than staying behind them. So he knew he doesn't really have to be aggressive with this guy because David is likely going to get aggressive with him. Good fighter. I think David is a good fighter. I've seen him once or twice, and if not for Inoue being so dominant at this weight, I would look at David and say, I see a champion in him, a guy who could probably pick up 1 or 2 alphabet titles at this weight. If Inoue weren't there, but because he is, and because he has all the marbles, all the belts, I don't see it working out for Picasso, who's got some height and got some length, though it wouldn't be the first time that Naoya fought a fighter that has a bit of size on him, a bit of height on him. I remember when he debuted at 118, he fought the very statuesque Jamie McDonnell, folded him up like a beach chair. Part of me feels that maybe David Allen Picasso brings a bit more to the table than Jamie McDonnell did years ago, though all the same, this is a massive step up for him.
And what else?
He's got a similar number of fights to Naoya Inoue, 32 or 33, but not the same level of opponents, and what else? He hasn't actually made super bantamweight in well over a year. The last time he fought at a recorded weight of super bantam was in August of last year when he fought Hafsat Havanesian. Since then, he's had 2 or 3 fights, all of which were fought above the super bantamweight limit.
Why would he be fighting above super bantam? It's got to be because getting to 122 isn't getting easier, it's getting harder. Given his physical dimensions, his height and his length and his age, it's possible that David is already starting to outgrow 122, so that if he has to make it this weekend for Naoya,
could be physically taxing enough that Naoya's punches are more damaging, take more out of him, as more has been taken out of him just making the weight. Due to what is beyond this fight, though, the mega match with Junto Nakatani, that's reason enough for Naoya to respect David. Take him seriously, don't take him for granted, and don't look past him.
As stated earlier, Naoya has reached critical mass, that rare point that most other boxers don't reach, where everything they do counts. Everything they do is under scrutiny, and every fight is make or break.
Making history that no other Japanese fighter before him has made, moving a mile a minute, he could trip over a pebble.
He almost did with Cardenas.
And the Cardenas fight was intended to be an easy one, like the David Allen Picasso fight is intended to be an easy one. So you see why he can't afford to look past anybody, even a 45-1 underdog. I don't think Inoue will have to go looking for David Allen Picasso because, as stated, David is not that taller, longer fighter that stays behind his jab. He steps into it. David is likely going to go looking for Inoue. He'll try to bring it to him.
He's more that taller fighter that tries to bear down on you, like Brandon Figueroa, like David Benavidez.
What Inoue has to do is stay sharp and pick him off. Use his aggression against him, since he's willing to give up his height and length to box on the inside. Make him miss, make him pay, catch and counter, catch and shoot.
Use his aggression against him. I, like many of you, am picking Inoue to win by way of knockout and move right into the Junto Nakatani fight next year.
But he has reached a point where he needs to be weary of anyone and everyone he encounters, even a greenhorn in David Allen Picasso. In men's welterweight news, an ongoing story in what seems to be trouble in paradise according to Eddie Hearn
for Crocker versus Haney.
Unless Turkey LL Sheik turns around and makes that fight, who's going to pay the money that those guys want and need for that fight? Because it doesn't generate it. If we can make the Devin Haney fight, or if we can make a big fight for Keyshawn, or whoever it's going to be, we'll look at it. But right now, we've got to make a defense.
It's important to note that Lewis Crocker is the matchroom fighter, not Devin Haney. He's still a free agent. Matchroom has no obligation to deliver that fight to Devin. Lewis wants it.
And so does Devin.
They both do. Likely on the premise that they both stand to make big money boxing each other. But just how big is the question. I'm not surprised that this fight has encountered a snafu, because I've long maintained that the Haney's financial demands make working with them difficult and expensive. More expensive than it needs to be.
If what you require is for someone to pay you above market value to do anything, that doesn't make for a sustainable business, and that doesn't make fights easier to make. Just because Turkey LL Sheik is willing to occasionally do this, then you better go get Turkey to bankroll this fight, because unless he's the one paying for it, it doesn't happen. Fiscally, it doesn't make sense.
He's the only one willing to kick out more money for a fight than it's actually worth, and all that really makes sense is greed.
On his part?
On the Haneys. Because it all begins with what DAZN paid him to come over to their platform. They paid above market value, thereby creating the expectation that every time he gets out there, he's going to make massive cash. Though it was never based on his ability to sell tickets or pay-per-views. It was based on DAZN's desire to acquire American fighters.
So that well after he left Matchroom, that expectation remained and carried over to his relationship with Top Rank, what is now his relationship with Turkey. This is not about whether or not you like Devin Haney as a fighter, respect his career accolades, or his style. This has nothing to do with your personal preferences, and this has everything to do with finance. So if who you're relying on now to make this fight is Matchroom and Matchroom alone, well, they're not going to bleed red ink to get you what you want, to satisfy your financial demands, because in doing so, what's in it for them?
They're gonna lose money.
Haney versus Crocker may be a significant fight to the hardcores who actually know who the champions are in the welterweight division, but to the casual audience, this is not a hot ticket.
It's not a hot ticket in the United Kingdom or Ireland, like it's not a hot ticket in the United States. That is, it's not so hot that the money you're looking for is warranted. But of course, the fighters and their teams never want to go backwards on the money. Leave it up to them, and it's always supposed to work out to where they get more. Even when it doesn't make sense for the platform or the promoter, I talk about it all the time. And this creates instability. This makes it difficult and expensive to make fights in boxing based on what the boxers want.
And if you're sensing a resentful tone from me as I cover this story, it's because the cost of everything going up has everything to do with fighters like Devin.
And what they want.
You tell me if you think that the Regis Prograis fight should have been a pay-per-view, because it was, and it was only a pay-per-view because of Devin's financial demands. What makes for an oversaturated market, inundated with pay-per-view after pay-per-view because of the money that the fighters are looking for and those dumb enough to try to get it to them.
Did you read the writing on the wall? The boxing fans are sick of boxing matches being tucked away behind a paywall. Haney versus Crocker is an all-right little fight, but not the kind you should pay extra to see, because Devin simply doesn't have that kind of marquee value, and neither does Lewis.
Lewis, who may soon find himself under orders to satisfy his mandatory challenger after Liam Paro squares off against Paddy Donovan. At the moment, he may have the wiggle room to squeeze in a voluntary in the form of Devin Haney or someone else to keep busy in the interim, but very soon he will find himself under orders from the IBF. So unless Turkey El Sheikh himself decides to intervene and pay for this fight himself, it is unlikely to happen. It's not a hot ticket in America, and it's not a hot ticket in the United Kingdom.
Stylistically, no Devin Haney fight is, because Devin at his best, if he's winning and he's in control,
he's not an entertaining fighter to watch. If he's winning and having it all his way, what that means is not a lot is going on.